Good afternoon, friends. I welcome you to join first screen webinar. This is the second week of COVID-19, and we are once again with you for commercial and industrial sector solar rooftop development. I'm your host, Dr. Sanjay Vashisht, and we hope that you have been patiently listening our previous webinars as well, and this will also be a useful topic to all of you. Just a brief introduction about first screen and why this subject. We have been active in commercial and industrial sector PPAs, and so far we have done about 20 PPAs ranging from some 100 kilowatt to 500 kilowatt individual rooftops. Our activities in executing these PPAs is we work with the client, we identify clients through our networks and with our channel partners. We help clients to understand the PPA, they sign a term sheet with us, and then we move to the project development process. We get financing through banks as well as private equity players to do investment in our projects. So far, we have created 2 megawatt capacities of PPA. However, we are working in India as well as abroad. Especially our focus is Africa. A lot of solar PPAs are being executed there as well. We will let you know about some more developments of Africa in future. Today's agenda is spread in 3 sections. So firstly, we will discuss about the overall market size. How big is this market and why this market becomes so important. At the same time, what type of opportunities are there. Then we will discuss about the project development process, how to originate projects, what are the issues related to the rooftop solar PPAs, how about the cash flows, and finally we will also have a financial evaluation sheet in which we will see how the project cash flows are affected in a commercial and industrial PPA. Just to announce that these slides will be shared with you. We are also doing recording of this session, and these will be posted once the webinar is completed. If you look at the Indian market, the total India's installed capacity is about 5,000 megawatt. This is a bit older figure, but as of date, India has got about 5,500 megawatt of rooftop installation. Though India's total installed capacity is about 35,000 megawatt, that is 35 gigawatt, of which about 5 gigawatt plus is the rooftop capacity. Government of India's target to do rooftop is of 40 gigawatt by 2022. So we are hardly 15% to our 12 to 15% achieving the target, and we have just 2 more years to go. So there is a lot of activities which we need to do. Out of this 5 megawatt plus capacity which is installed in Indian market, about 3 megawatt capacity is from commercial and industrial segment. So the other segments are typically like residential segments, wherein the capacities are smaller and the ticket sizes are also smaller. So this puts a huge potential for growth. The typical growth of rooftop segment is, as of date, is about 45 to 50%. So every year we are adding new capacities and our ticket size is increasing, and we are hopeful that if we want to achieve the growth of the tune of our targets like 40 gigawatt by 2022, then we should have the capacity installation every year at least 10 to 15 gigawatt. Looks like that is very difficult unless favorable government supports are available. We will discuss the issues with this segment. The annual capacity which we are installing, the market can be also divided into 2 categories: the capex market and opex market. The capex market is smaller because not many people are interested to put their money in the projects, especially the commercial and industrial segments. They are willing, like somebody else put the money, and they get cheaper electricity at a negotiated price. So it's a win-win situation to the installer as well as the company, because if the company do not put that investment, they save that much amount of money in their business, and that can be used in their conventional business rather than putting in solar. So we are the companies like expert company who are in the business of solar. So we should put our money into solar. Somebody else who's doing some other manufacturing, they should put their money in their expertise so that they get their returns over there. So it's a win-win situation to both parties. So as we see that the market for OPEX is significant, and this will keep growing. And the OPEX means the RESCO model, or we say the market under power purchase agreements. So it is important that we tap this market, and the knowledge of this segment is very important to all the professionals working in this area. And that's the reason we thought this is a topic which will be useful to our participants. Just to share some examples of the projects which we have executed. This is a project in Guwahati, 500 kilowatt rooftop solar plant on a hospital, that is GMCH. This is a 230 kilowatt plant at institute, that is Niren, and we have been continuously running this for last 2 years. It is a project done in Zorhat. It's on a slant roof, and you can see the roof is a little older, but the installation is having a very, very favorable slope for south, and the project is performing pretty well. Some more examples. This is another 100 kilowatt project on faculty school. So in order to understand the complete process of development of a solar project into commercial and industrial segment. On the left side, the photograph you see is a large rooftop, which we have done recently in Riyadh for a large industrial client. So the process of development of a solar rooftop project, especially in the C&I segment, is starting with the project origination. So there are not many people, and they want to do installation, and still people find this as the biggest challenge, that they are not able to find a good client who has where the PPA can be signed. And so there are issues in terms of origination of some good PPAs for C&I sector. The biggest issue is that the PPAs are dictated by the financing companies or banks who are providing debt or equity in the project, and they require a very strong balance sheet. So the company should be profitable, and they should remain in profit for last 3 years. So those kind of checks and balances they do for before funding these projects. Of course, we as a developer put our equity as 30%, and balance is funded by the debt that is available in Indian market through the various sources. Like there is a $650 million fund available through World Bank, that is through SBI fund for rooftop solar projects. Similarly, there is a ADB funding available through Bank of Baroda and PNB. So the GIZ funding is also available for solar projects. So all these funding agencies who are providing debt or equity, the first concern is the off-taker or the client on whose roof the systems will be installed should be reasonably good client with a strong balance sheet. Not only that, the roof should have a good orientation so that you get a favorable slope towards the south, especially when we talk about the Indian conditions. You need a reasonably good solar radiation at that location so that you can generate electricity from the sun. And at times the C&I sector faces the challenge that the operations are 5 days or 6 days. It is preferred that if the operations are for 7 days, or your power evacuation can take place for 7 days, then this is the best situation. For example, there might be a cold storage, which is energy intensive operation. They have the roof as well as the consumption almost all 7 days. Even if there is a factory, then these Sundays there are shifts, and in that type of situation, can expect that there are generation happening, and whatever you generate is being consumed by the people. The reasonable ticket size of the project is also important. It is not just like a 10, 15 or 50 kilowatt installation. It's not a good idea to do a C&I for a small ticket size. It should be a reasonable ticket size, and whatever you generate should be able to absorb in the C&I consumer. So that's the requirement based on which you identify a solar project. Once you have identified the solar project, the next activity which you will do is you have to finalize your PPA, that is power purchase agreement. So you first share the PPA term sheet. PPA term sheet is an abstract of 50-page document. Rather, the client would like to have some key points they are discussed through a PPA term sheet so that comfortable. Once they are agreeing to the critical terms of the project, then a detailed PPA is shared with the client, and each terms of the PPA is discussed with the client, and then you generally the client also gets it reviewed through his. It's a legal document, so the client has to be explained properly, and the rooftop owner as well as the project developer should transparently share all the documents related to PPA, and the risk associated with the PPA should be transparently discussed and explained to the rooftop owner. The rooftop owner doesn't carry much risk. It is a project developer which carry. We will discuss those risks later. But during PPA process, we should discuss all the critical items related to PPA. We will discuss them in subsequent sections. Once you have identified, then of course you have to do a feasibility assessment, and you have to collect the details of the plan, maybe daily, hourly, and maybe weekly load profile should be collected for the facility. And once you have the consumer load profile, then you have to match the facility load profile with the solar load profile, and you have to ensure that whatever you generate should be consumed in the client facility. So that's a requirement. If you are generating excess, then there should be a provision that the client has a provision of net metering, so surplus electricity can flow back to the grid, and the client gets advantage of the net metering. But this net metering is not a favorable condition to you in all the states. For example, in UP, the commercial and industrial customers are not allowed for the net metering benefits. It is the residential customers only who are allowed for the net metering. So essentially, if you are considering a rooftop solar, especially in the CMS segment, then please ensure that whatever you generate electricity, you generate your generation profile, daily generation profile should be matched with the consumption profile. So any excess generation, if it is evaluated properly during the feasibility study. You should also ensure that you get a proper roof access. There should be proper walkways available so that you can reach to the roof, and during installation as well as O&M of the project. There are issues related to connectivity. So you have to evaluate that how you will inject the electricity and at what voltage within the plant facility. If it is a three-phase connection, typically it can be injected at 440 volt without a transformer. But sometimes the large plants are having power distribution at higher voltage, 6.6 or 11 kV voltages. Then if you are injecting your electricity at higher voltage, then appropriately a transformer is also required. You should also check the policies and regulations within the state from the DISCOM side, so that you are clear in terms of your approvals. For example, in Rajasthan, if you are doing a project which is 1 megawatt and above, and even if it is a commercial and industrial rooftop project, you have to take a DISCOM approval, and there may be possibility that they have some charges related to the cross subsidy, even if you are generating behind the meter. So those are new regulations are coming up in some of the states which are to be checked with reference to your proposed installation, so that you should not get a surprise for your installation. Once you have done the feasibility, then of course you have to get into the design engineering phase, wherein you have to ensure that what technology suits to those site conditions, and you are able to fulfill those conditions or not. You have to check the temperature, the roof adequacy for bearing the panel load. But just to mention, many times people have an issue in terms of the roof load bearing capacities. If you are able to walk on a roof, that's a thumb rule that you can install a solar panel, because the weight which is caused by a human being walking on the roof is almost 3 times as compared to the weight by solar panels. So typically, solar panels put a weight of something like 20 kg per meter square. Or a man standing on a roof is causing almost 60 kg plus. So ensure the walkways when you are installing on the roof. You have to find the cable routing and appropriately find out which are the options available for power evacuation. So you need to do the layout planning. You need to do the access of the roof. You need to find out where all you can do injection of your system. So these are the things you may require during your operations. Though financing is an important aspect in the project development process, but this doesn't come after design engineering, but it can run parallelly. So financing means once your PPA is signed, you are ready to go for installation, and you need to procure your items. Your design is also finalized. All approvals and clearances are in place. You are good to go for installation. Then you need money. So you have got two options. You can get the debt financing, or you can bring the investor as an equity partner in the project, and they will have their due diligence, which are like technical due diligence, then the, the, the regulatory due diligence, and the PPA will also be subjected to the legal due diligences. So those things are required, and they have each funding agencies nowadays have a checklist for due diligence. If you want to see, for example, IREDA gave funding to solar rooftop projects, you can check the IREDA's checklist on their website. Maybe post this, we can put it on our blog. You can also see the guidelines of SBI for funding. They are available on our blog. So you can check, the banks and funding agencies who are providing you the debt and their guidelines, which will help you to arrange finances. At times, you can also, bilaterally talk to some equity investors who are present in Indian market, and overseas equity players are also showing good interest in these solar projects. And finally, you do the EPC of the solar project. You can do EPC on your own, but if you don't have your own EPC team, then you can offload the EPC as a project developer and finalize the EPC contract with the party, and then you proceed for installation of the solar rooftop system. So once you have done the EPC part of this, then the next part is the project commissioning, wherein you need to check whether the cold testing and the project is as per the guidelines specified by the government or not. So at times, say for example, you have commissioned project, but you need to take approvals from CEIG, and please ensure that the installation is as per their DISCOM standards and whatever CEIG guidelines have been met or not. And once the project becomes operational, then it is the O&M activity only which is required, and you have to carry out your scheduled and unscheduled maintenance, as well as you start billing it to the clients. So this is the overall cycle of the development. Now the whole project cycle which we discussed is subjected to various risks, and the project related risks are higher during the start of the project, and once the project becomes operational, the risk becomes lower. So these risks are like, if you have taken some design related issues, maybe you have selected a wrong type of structure which was not required, and it has been taken, and finally when you go for actual installation, the roof is not compatible with the proposed design. So there are risks available with reference to the design related risk. There are risks related to the detailed engineering related items. Procurement related risks are also there. You ordered some items and you are not able to procure them in time, which delays your project, and that in terms lead to losses. There are risks related to construction. So once the project becomes operational, these risks are minimized, and any developer who is putting and exposing himself to these risks, he would expect a reward in the similar proportion. So the risk to reward ratio is the same. So if the developer has completed project and the project is operational, then he has the eligibility to get a premium on his project, because if it is an operational project, then the risks are minimal. So that's the advantage you get. Now, when we talk about the commercial and industrial sector, inherently we are talking about the commercial and industrial sector PPAs, because EPC is a normal business, and the PPA is the crux of this whole business idea about it, because it's a win-win situation to the off-taker as well as to the developer. So there are risks associated with this PPA. So PPA terms need to be discussed in detail with the client. There are many PPA terms, but we will discuss a few of them, which are, we believe, very important from the point of view. So the first and foremost important thing is the payment security. So if you are generating electricity, then the payments have to be made, and the off-taker has to make payment. And because if you are selling electricity cheaper than the grid electricity, then there is no point why the off-taker do not want to make payment. So as long as the rooftop solar electricity is cheaper than the grid electricity, they should make the payment. So, but still there are concern that at times you have submitted your bills and they are not processed. So in order to avoid that, there is a process which has been adopted. This is known as a revolving LC to be opened by the off-taker to the project developer, so that once he has submitted his bills, then he can get the payment against the LC within the specified time, and the LC is renewed on monthly or bi-monthly or on annual basis depending on the contract. At times, people also ask for a payment security in terms of a bank guarantee, which is a much refined tool. But for bank guarantee, the off-taker has to submit some more money, and the exposure is higher. So typically, the tool which is adopted by the C&I clients is LC. The second term which is very important in a rooftop PPA is your right of roof access. So it is your assets on the roof of somebody else's plant, and you should have a free access to the roof, and the security of your system is in your scope. So you should be allowed to access as and when you want. So this clause is there. Free power and water is required. So power requirement is very minimal because you just require a little bit of high pressure water for cleaning your modules. But during O&M, you will require water also. For the small rooftop system, you may not be doing water. So water has to be supplied by the off-taker. So please ensure that you mention that clause. One important clause which is always debated is the deemed generation. An hour before, I was having a call and we were discussing this clause only with the C&I client. Now the deemed generation is nothing but like if I as a rooftop owner is generating electricity, but the consumer is not able to consume my electricity, then I should be paid even if they don't consume that electricity, because if I am available to generate and if you are not able to consume, then it is a lost opportunity for me, and this will affect my profitability. So the deemed generation is a very important clause. This should be explained to any of the C&I consumer before you really sign off the PPA. Otherwise, it may lead to some dispute that you did not told us or you did not explain these things to us. The next important aspect is the buyback option. So in your PPA, you provide a table that if you want to buy these assets at any point of time, the asset values in year 1, 2, 3, like that, maybe up to 25 years is the asset life, and for that much period you put the buyback value to the C&I consumer. So if they want to buy, they can buy these assets and need not to pay further for the sale of electricity. The PPA default or termination are also important clauses, though there is, we should not reach to a situation where an PPA default happens, but it's a business and you have to be sure that you take care of these aspects in your PPA. So what kind of defaults you can expect? So PPA default is like your client is not paying your electricity bill for 2-3 months, then maybe if consecutively for 3 months they are not paying, then that can be considered as PPA default on the side of the buyer, that is the off-taker. There may be a PPA default from the side of seller if he is not able to generate electricity consistently, or the agreed CUF is not being maintained by the developer. Then he has to ensure that much generation happens and should not reach to that kind of condition. So there are defaults on behalf of the buyer as well as seller. Both these defaults need to be expressed in your PPA. So every business has got risks. So do the solar business. Though we say that solar is a risk-free business, as long as sun is shining, you will keep producing electricity, and as long as you are producing electricity, it will be consumed. So, but businesses are not like that. It may be possible that you will be subjected to certain risks, and these risks should be shared by each stakeholders based on whatever is his part. So what are those type of risks? At times we have seen that the project is installed and you have got some approvals pending, and you are not able to generate electricity because you don't have some CEIG approval or net metering approval is not there, or interconnection feasibility has not been given. So these things, there are various issues which needs to be taken care, and at times you should not end up that your project faces these type of risks. At times, project also faces delays. So delays can be on account of approvals, of course. At the same times, the delays can be because of the payment-related issues. These days, solar projects are facing delays due to COVID-19 issues as well. So delays can be of any type, and we should be prepared to take up those risks and challenges, and appropriately those risks should be addressed and mitigation should take place. The grid availability is also considered as big risk to a solar project. The reason is that typically C&I projects are grid connected solar projects. So as long as grid is available, it will generate electricity. If grid is not available, it will not generate electricity. So the grid related issues hamper the profitability of the developer or the generator. So again, if the client doesn't have adequate grid, or if the client has low voltage, it is the developer who faces the erosion of his profits because of less sale of electricity. And please ensure that these issues are addressed in your curtailment or deemed generation clauses of your PPA. Then one more risk which I wanted to discuss was the site related risk, that is roof risk. So sometimes you have not evaluated roof properly and you've got difficulty in roof access, or roof is not strong enough that it can take up the load of the solar PV installation, or sometimes it may be like a nearby building is coming up and this may cast a shadow on your solar project. So those type of conditions are also to be evaluated. Please ensure that there is a reasonable offset from your solar plant so that there is no future shadow coming on your plant. So those things will erode your profits otherwise. Now, financing is a key to implement a solar project. It is not the technology which plays an important role. It is the finance which plays an important role in the implementation of a solar project. So the issues are related to financing at times, which lead to delay, or the issues are that project is not financed, or the bankability issues are very important issues. So what happens is that at times you have policy uncertainty. So there is a lack of clarity in terms of net metering, or you do not have the approvals of interconnection. So if those things are not there, then your financing guy will not give you the approval for funding this project, because he is aware that if you do not have all the approvals or policies are not adequately addressed, in that case you will not be able to meet your targets. At times we have seen that projects are of low ticket size. These are small projects, and if you really want to go to the banks like SBI, wherein World Bank finance is available at 8.5% interest rate, the low ticket size is also a concern to the solar developers, and you will not get always a 1 megawatt types roof. So you have to bundle them in a single project under a mastered agreement, and under the master agreement we can have the individual PPAs. So those are the conditions which you can be sure, so that your overall application becomes minimum 1 megawatt. That is the requirement. So at times, if you have smaller projects, then you have to bundle them, and bundling takes its own time. The biggest challenge which we discussed was the off-taker credit worthiness. So there are many good roofs available, there are many good clients, but still they are interested to get their installations done, but their balance sheets are not credit worthy. Their funding positions are not so strong that the bank evaluates it that it's a bankable client. So that is the biggest challenge. These small MSME industries, they don't do the ICRA credit ratings and all that. So which leads to a project is available, the developer wants to do installation, the off-taker wants to get done the installation, but it is the finance which are not available, just because according to the funding agency, the client's credit worthiness is a challenge. So this is yet another issue which is there while implementing a solar project. So once the project is done, there are again challenges which are related to the tariff related risk. That means that at times you find that the off-taker wants to renegotiate the tariff, or the tariff is linked with the situation like there is an escalation clause, but you want that if the tariff goes even after escalation, if the tariff goes beyond the above the grid tariff, then you should keep your tariff lower than the grid tariff. So the risk comes again on the developer. So if you are protecting your client that even if there is an escalation in my tariff, but if at any point of time, if the solar tariff goes above the grid tariff, then we will not increase your tariff. So that type of things are there, which puts a risk on the developer himself. Operational risk is also on the shoulders of developer. The plant should perform, and the project should be generating electricity. So that operational risk is also on the developer, and at the same time the technology risk is also on the developer. So these are the couple of risks which the developer is exposed. So coming back to the advantages of solar PPA, the advantage which the C and I segment consumers have is no upfront investment. They need not put any money, and without any investment, they can expect a reduction in their electricity bills. So they can expect savings without any investment. The solar projects are green and clean, and they address some sustainability related advantages also. The rooftop developer can go for LEED certification if they want, and this adds certain points to them. There are carbon credits and other associated benefits available in various places, and they can take advantages of that. If it is the PPA, then the project developer gets an advantage of accelerated depreciation in his balance sheets. So but if the off-taker, that the consumer, if they are signing the PPA at a flat tariff, then this helps him to hedge from the up and down, or variation of the utility price fluctuations. So those are the advantages to the solar project PPAs, and it's a advantage to all the parties who are associated in this as a stakeholder. We will discuss before we end cash flow, which would give you some idea that what kind of tariffs we can we can have for solar rooftops in a C&I segment. So this is a cash flow in a single sheet. So I thought it will be helpful to you to understand. What we have considered is, let us assume that it's a project of 1 megawatt, maybe a single client or a bundled client. So for the sake of ease, we have considered it as a 1 megawatt solar project. And the cost of investment is about 4 crore per megawatt. So we have considered as 400 lakh as investment in this project. And we are expecting generation something like 16 lakh units per year as generation from the solar project. And we have considered like 4 rupees as PPA tariff. So these are the typical assumptions. There are other assumptions also. I will just show you. There might be a situation where you can put a clause of year-on-year escalation in the tariff. There will be generation degradation in the panels, and you can consider 1% degradation flat on year-on-year basis in your plant. The O&M charges are typically considered as 2% of the project cost, so we have considered 2% O&M. And the O&M escalation is considered as about 5%. The debt equity ratio is 70-30, and the corporate tax is 33%, and MAT is 20%. So this is what the overall scenario. Now, in year 1, you are producing 16 lakh units of electricity, which is being sold at a rate of 4 rupees. So 16 lakh units sold at 4 rupees per unit. Total income is 64 lakh rupees. Here we have considered that there is no REC or green bond or CDN, no other income for the sake of simplicity. So this is what your income sheet. Annual year on year, you can see your generation is degrading by 1% every year. So your revenues are also reducing. The O&M expenses are also increasing by 5% per year. So it starts with 8 lakh per year, and gradually it keeps increasing by 5% per year. The expenses are not only the O&M expenses, but the interest expenses in your solar project. So how the interest is coming? Whatever is your debt component. So let us say you have taken a debt of 280 lakh. So your interest payment is about 34 lakh rupees based on the debt you have taken. And it is on reducing balance basis, so you can consider that. The insurance cost is also to be considered as expenses. So your O&M, insurance, and interest payment, these are the 3 expenses. And so this is the cash outflow. The total cash outflow is 43 lakh rupees. Total cash inflow is 64 lakh rupees. So if you minus this, then you will get the net revenue or the cash inflow to your project. This is the section which is explaining you the depreciation part. So you have got 40% depreciation in first year on your solar project. So on a total project basis, you will have 160 lakh rupees as depreciation, and on 160 lakh rupees, you get the tax advantage of 52 lakh rupees. Remember, this 52 lakh rupees is 33% of 160 because the corporate tax is 33%. So this is your tax advantage you are getting. Okay, so the loan has to be repaid also. Apart from interest, there are loan repayment as well, because first year moratorium has not been considered. So first year cash flow is negative, and after that you can see the cash flows are like this, and you get IRR of some 13.36%. Now there are sensitivities which affects this, and various sensitivities are important to be discussed in project cash flow. So what are those sensitivities? The first sensitivity is the what if your generation reduces. So if we have considered like 16 lakh unit, so if your generation reduces to say 15 lakh unit, then your IRR will reduce accordingly. So the sensitivity needs to be checked in terms of your plant generation. Sensitivity should also be checked in terms of your overall project cost, because if your overall project cost increases due to whatever risk during the installation period, then also you are subjected to reduction in your IRR. So if let's say your project cost increases to 500, your IRR reduces significantly. So this is another sensitivity you should consider while analyzing this. There are few more things which affects this. Of course, the O&M cost components are very small in your case, but the interest on loan, we see here we have kept interest on loan about 12.5%. But if this interest on loan is 8.5%, then the project becomes highly attractive. So I have changed the, let us say that you are taking loan from SBI, the project becomes profitable and your IRR is about 19.94, about 20%, with a project cost of 4 crore per megawatt and a tariff of 4 rupees. So these are the boundary lines which affects the profitability of a C&I projects. Evaluate this properly. We can share our PPTs, but this Excel sheet will not be shareable. You can, if you have some doubt about your cash flows, we can discuss that separately. So finally, the future starts today, not tomorrow. So think about solar today. Don't delay your investments in C&I projects. If you have got money and you are looking for some good solar projects, we have got a lot of projects where you can do investments. We will be happy to help you to put your investment. If you are a rooftop owner and if you are a consumer, then if you want to get installed a solar rooftop system on a PPA basis, please feel free to contact us. The details we have anyway given on our website, and we will be able to give you a reasonable priced PPA. We have got a couple of questions from our participants. So I've got a question that is, in India, why don't we see development in rooftop solar for all residential buildings, like smaller road hanging from 15 kilowatt to 50 kilowatt? Is it PPA and business is not profitable in this load? Please share your expertise. So who is the question? Mr. Sandesh, right? Mr. Sandesh, are you available with your microphone? Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay, let me answer. The question is that why the smaller projects like residential? As I told, the ticket size is a concern in residential projects. If the ticket size is like 5 to 10 kilowatt, then it is very difficult to execute it as a PPA because the processing cost for finance itself is a huge, and the bundling small numbers and then making 1 megawatt bundle is very difficult. So taking those type of situation is difficult. There is another question. If grid is not available, can we operate this by DG? Yes, you can operate it, but please understand that if the grid is not available uh, and you have to operate it by DG, then what it will happen is that if your project is like 100 kilowatt, then DG should be minimum 300 kilowatt size. So as a thumb rule, you should have 3 times the size of DG so that your system can run comfortably. The solar PV DG synchronization and all those issues can be discussed later, but these are the concerns. Next question is from Mr. Sandesh. Is that you are saying that sheet of the issue is that the interest rates, if we consider like 12.5, I deliberately kept the interest rate higher. So if your interest rate is 8.5, then the return expectation to the developers in India is about 14 to 16%. So the boundary line is whatever you do, your project should generate returns of something like 14 to 16%. Right. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending, and it's my pleasure. Just for a small announcement for our new webinar. Next week, we will be arranging one more webinar on energy storage. So we will announce it and share with you, and we hope that you will like that as well. Thank you for your participation. I've got some more questions. Saurabh Jain, he's asking what is the minimum tariff rate is under a PPA. So typically, the disclosing tariff is a challenging issue, but typically the commercial and industrial PPA tariff range from 4 rupees to 5 rupees depending on the credit worthiness of the off-taker as well as the ticket size. If it is a large project like 1 megawatt, then people can do PPA even less than 4 rupees as well. Then the next question is, sir, can we get emails about webinars? Yeah, this webinar was yesterday announced, and it was a last minute announcement. So we are sorry for that. We will ensure that future webinars will be announced in time. Thank you very much for all your questions. Please feel free to send some more. We have got some more questions. People are asking, other than SBI, which are funding agencies in India. So other than SBI, PNB is funding, Bank of Baroda is funding. These are the government banks I am aware who are providing you the funding. You can appropriately. IREDA is also funding the solar rooftop projects. So these are the agencies which are funding it. Thank you. Sure.